If there's one thing I can say confidently, it's that everyone loves the 80s. Right here on the Extended Play Podcast.
Welcome back to the Extended Play Podcast with Ian Tank. We are a music discussion show without the hipster snobbery. And, we've heard in the past that, like, we talked about the 80s being when the 80s was really the 80s.
It really hit its stride in like 84.
This is the 80s.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is this is the next 10 in our list of the 100 best albums of all, 100 greatest albums, 100 best albums of our lifetime. We're going to go through numbers 90 through 81 today. Yep. So the 80s will be.
And just to validate my 80s statement. Okay. When I say Appetite for Destruction, do you think 80s?
I do not.
Exactly. And when I say Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, like I Love Rock and Roll, do you think 80s?
No.
No, they were both 80s.
That's crazy.
Like 88 and 82, right? So it's like fucking Men Without Hats, 1985.
Right.
That is really, it is the meaty undercarriage of the 80s.
Speaking of meaty undercarriages, Tank is going to start us off today with number 90. If you haven't watched the previous 10, I don't think we need to go through it real quick.
What, the methodology?
No, to go through what the previous 10 were.
You click on the link.
Go back, watch.
We've done enough work.
It'll be up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be in the general vicinity.
Yeah.
Plus, the 100 to 91 also explained how we came up with this masterful list, which in and of itself is entertaining.
I think so.
I'd watch it 2 or 3 times if I was you.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So with no further ado, we're going to jump right on into 90 through 81, the content of this episode. And we're going to start off at number 90 with Rush, Moving Pictures. Speaking of not quite the 80s, this was released in 1981.
Okay.
I would have bet my life that this was a Tank exempt album, but I went and looked. It was actually a negotiated album. So
it was?
At this point in time, he must have just given up on life.
I'm like,
dude, I'm late. Just fucking whatever.
For the record, I don't hate Rush. I'm just not interested.
Okay.
I don't hate them.
All right.
I don't. Our buddy Jay, shout out to our buddy Jay, who does not watch the show. He hates Rush.
So it's like your Fish.
Yes.
I don't hate Fish.
Yeah.
I just...
Not for me.
Okay.
Yeah, not for me.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So it's only 7 songs, which I guess I don't... What is the technical difference between an EP and an album?
Seriously.
Right?
Yeah.
So...
Well, initially it was how much information could be contained on a record.
Okay.
So an extended play.
Oh.
Right.
We should know this given the name of the podcast.
We should. Long playing was when they could actually do whatever it is, 30 minutes on each side.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's only 7 songs, but there's 4, more or less classic. I mean, at this point, classic rock, really, in those 7. So Tom Sawyer, which everyone knows. Limelight, my personal favorite from the album. It's a great, just pop rock song. Red Barchetta, which is really cheesy, but a good song.
Okay.
And YYZ, or as our friends south of the border in Windsor would say, YYZ.
South of the border. We are in the Detroit metro area.
Little
Windsor
geography.
is south of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Gordie Howe Bridge, by the way, pretty much done. Have you seen the pictures?
I've seen some of it, some of the drone stuff. It's pretty amazing.
Pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Did you know, you probably did, I think I brought this up multiple times, but the YYZ, the beginning?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, when it's like, that's Morse code of YYZ.
Oh, incredible.
Right?
That's what they call math rock, I believe.
Yeah. And where that came from was they would have, I would assume, a private jet or whatever, or, chartered at least. They were all kind of aviation dorks. They would be hanging around the cockpit or talking to pilots, whatever, and they would land in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Because it's YYZ for Toronto. And so they would hear that and they were like, oh, that would be a good.
I see. Wait, YYZ, what does that have to do with Toronto?
That's Toronto's airport code.
Oh, it is.
All Canadian airports start with a Y.
Oh my gosh. I know that because my daughter watches these CGP Grey videos, which are, he goes through it. It's an entire, I'll link to that down below.
Why not?
Where he goes through how the airport codes were formed. And it is fascinating and total fucking chaos.
You want to see, watch this. Give me a city.
Birmingham.
Alabama? BHM.
Okay. How about Seattle?
SEA.
How about, let's see, Eugene. Do they have an airport in Eugene, Oregon?
Do I have to specify like 500,000
Portland's
population?
PDX, I do know that.
Right.
Let's try whatever, something in the Northeast. Like, give me something in Delaware, New Hampshire, Maine.
You know what? That's kind of my weak spot. I never go there.
Nice challenge, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought he would reel off, like New Orleans, which is MSY.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
God, it's crazy.
There's all kinds of like, Orlando is MCO.
Okay.
There's all kinds of ones that don't make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
But, all right. Well, thanks for that little ride you went on us, folks. All right. Moving on to, I love, by the way, when cities change their name, but they don't change the airport code.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So like Delhi, India is BOM because it was Bombay.
Okay.
And Beijing is still PEK for Peking.
No kidding.
Yep. Learn something today, folks.
That's right. You're about to learn today.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Number 89 is In Excess with the album Kick. This came out in 1987. This was a negotiated pick. I'm going to go ahead and give you a track list. Very similar to the Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation, where it's just an onslaught of hits.
Yeah.
Need You Tonight, Devil Inside, New Sensation, Never Tear Us Apart. Mystify was the fifth single. I don't think it was as big here as it was in Australia.
Okay.
But, up there. And I think this is a great example of the kind of album that we're proud is on this list and you don't see on many critics' lists. It's a pop album, right? I mean, it's In Excess. Real critics would just roll their eyes at it and never. But dude, it's a great fucking album. Like this is the poster child for why is this not on great albums list? Everyone knows many of the songs and enjoys many of the songs. Is that not basically what albums are supposed to do?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it is singular in its sound as well. I don't think any other band sounded like In Excess.
No. And my next bold ass statement that I'll be making several of throughout this list. I think In Excess could have been Oasis level.
Wow. Okay.
If given enough time.
Really?
Right. I mean, they really only, everything was cut short, obviously. Yeah. And Michael Hutchence, by the way, I'm not gay, but if I was,
I mean,
would.
100%. Yeah, apparently that was something he battled against his whole life, was being taken seriously as a musician because he was so like objectively attractive.
Right. It's a George Michael syndrome.
Yeah, right.
But no, just a beautiful man, beautiful voice. Great fucking voice.
Yeah, really. Yeah, distinct.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and they had another album or two after this, but I mean, just to think where maybe it would have gone with more time.
Yeah.
They made great songs.
Would you say they had not enough time?
Well played. Well played. Which is my favorite overall.
But not on this album.
No, it's on the next album. Yeah. So that's number 89.
Okay. Number 88, for all you classic rock fans out there, from 1980, it's Back in Black by AC/DC. This was a blind agree.
Yep.
It's on a couple lists. It was hard for me when I was preparing here to come up with a whole lot of notes. There's nothing that you need to know that you don't already know about AC/DC.
I got to talk about bad later.
Right. Other than, I mean, the big one for if you really are not in the know in your rock history, this is the transition of lead singers in an incredibly popular band. In the height of their powers, Bon Scott dies. They bring in Brian Johnson and do not miss a step. If anything, launch it up to another level of superstardom. And that's because the songs are undeniable. This is probably the most pure rock album on this list, I would say. I mean, it's just a straight up, like, no subgenres. It's just an incredible rock record. 10 songs, 42 minutes. Like I said, 1980. No bullshit. No need to critically dissect the lyrics.
Like giving the dog a bone.
Yeah, like, who gives a shit? That's not what this is about. It's all about raw feeling, raw power. Okay, so classic songs. Starts with Hell's Bells. You've got Shoot to Thrill. Obviously, Back in Black. You Shook Me All Night Long. Those four songs, even if the rest were filler, which they're not, they're decent songs. There's a couple of not so great songs. Yeah. That'd be enough to make this one of the greatest albums of all time. Incredible. It's one of those albums where I never listened to it.
Right.
But I'm not turning it off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, most AC/DC, actually, I'm not turning off.
Right. One of my favorite quotes in rock music history is there was some journalist that was trying to like big time Angus Young.
Okay.
He's like, what would you say to people who say that you've made essentially 11 albums that sound the same? And he's like, that's absolutely not true. We've made 12 albums that sound absolutely the same. Just completely owned it. It's like, we're AC/DC.
Lean into it, man. Yeah. Right. But what else do you want from them?
It's rock and roll too.
Yep.
It's not quantum physics.
No, it's not. Yeah. This is where the snobs, this is where our policy of no music snob, no hipster snobbery comes in, right? Like, you don't need to get too deep into it. It's just incredible rock
Especially
record.
with rock.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so that's number 88. Number 87 is Jason Isbell, Southeastern. This was another blind agree. This is from 2013, and Tank is definitely the bigger Jason Isbell fan. I co-sign everything Tank has to say. Check out past episodes. Check out our Country Part 2 episode, which I'll link up here, where we talk a lot about the people we really like in country. And we've talked about him a number of times. Yeah. This album, I think, fairly widely considered like his masterpiece so far.
Yes, yeah. At the very least, I would have said just like it's the coming out party.
Yeah, okay, that's a good way to put it.
It's where Isbell goes from promising young country tangential guy to is this going to be the next Dylan?
Yes,
right. That's where he started being discussed in those tones.
Absolutely, and you get that immediately with the very first track in the album, which is "Cover Me Up," which then obviously Morgan Wallen spinned into a mega hit, but undeniably sort of gut wrenching, beautifully written. Song to start off the album. A daring way to start off an album in that it's very slow tempo, right, and very serious.
He doesn't do a whole lot of up tempo.
No, he doesn't. With the 400 unit, there's some of those songs are more. Bit. I mean, not okay. The tempo's not, but it's at least louder.
Yeah. Even then, I mean, they're not a whole lot of like boot, scoot, and boogieing.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just a little tidbit about that. Once Morgan Wallen pulled the Morgan Wallen and became the Morgan Wallen we all hate. Jason Isbell decided that all the royalties he gets from Morgan Wallen's version of the song, he's donating to the local at Nashville. I think it's Alabama NAACP.
God damn it, I love him.
Incredible dude. You can't, because it shows up in his lyrics.
Yeah.
Just to have someone who's not just left leaning but left like diving.
Yeah.
In country music, it's so refreshing because it shows up in its lyrics. Like 2 or 3 songs into it, he's talking about. Like he's reminiscing about the land that he grew up on that was farmed by slaves.
Yeah.
Like he just those minor little nods to like, I know the past. I'm from Alabama. I'm as Alabama as it gets.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to talk about the beautiful and the ugly. And I think that's one of his major strengths in all of his records. But tidbit that we teased in the last episode was that in my research I learned that Ryan Adams, the singer Ryan Adams, was supposed to produce this album.
Yes, not Decoration Day by Drive-By Truckers.
No, but the interesting part about that is Jason Isbell said, and he's a very frank dude in interviews, said that he thinks he dropped out because he was intimidated by the quality of the songwriting.
Probably.
And Jason Isbell, right? If you think about it, their careers, that's a Venn diagram that's very on top of each other. Jason Isbell clearly showing here and then from all his work that he's on a whole other level.
Yeah.
All the things they said about Ryan Adams in the early 90s or mid 90s are true about Jason Isbell.
Yeah. The one song I wanted to make sure I address is if you've lost anyone in your life, especially an older person, and watched them pass away, try to get through the song Elephant. Just try.
Yeah.
I've listened to it 100. I still can't get through it without crying. 100th listen.
And what I wrote down is that it's not schmaltzy.
No.
How you can make a song about cancer.
Yep.
And not make it like, oh God, not make it like the Sarah McLachlan PSA for the dogs, right? Where you're like, oh God, I know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic song. Yep. I really like, just another random tidbit, I like what he did with the cover for the 10th anniversary. He just reshot him. It's just his face, but older.
Nice.
And it's exact same pose. And you can see what I think is interesting is that this is when he got sober. He got sober right before this album, and he notoriously got kicked out of Drive-By Truckers for drinking too much. And if you watch the documentary, he gets into all the sort of alcohol problems. But his face, he talked a lot about his physique back then because he was so bloated from all the booze. 10 years later, how much better he looks in the 10th anniversary. So, Jason Isbell, Southeastern, 2013, another highly recommended album.
That was number 87.
87. Into number 86, back to me again. Vivid by Living Colour. This is just starting to get its flowers again. For all of a sudden, maybe it's 25 years, or 35 years.
30, oh God,
holy shit, just passed. This was a Tank exempt. I wrote down, right?
Yeah.
This is you.
Yeah.
I co-sign it 100%. And I can talk to it. I re-listened to it the other day. Holy shit, way better than I remember. Go back. If you were kind of lukewarm on them, go back, listen to the entire album.
I mean, Cult of Personality alone.
Holy shit, is that?
Was a monster. Like, I think under different circumstances, it could be regarded as like Paradise City or like, the iconic rock song of the 80s.
Absolutely.
To be honest, it almost is.
I agree.
But and what's so funny to me is, again, things would never happen now. There's like that Vernon Reid guitar solo is like a minute and 20 seconds long.
Does he tear through that?
Right, but it's just a radio song with this long ass guitar solo
that starts off with what, the Malcolm X
Yes.
quote at the beginning. Like, so it's got like, it starts that way.
Yep.
So that's what I like about, one of the many things I like about this album is that it is so daring.
Yep.
They are unafraid to try up 5-6 different genres, sometimes within one song. There's like very like proggy, like weird time signature changes in some songs. Some songs are straight ahead rock and roll. Some are bluesy. There's a harmonica at the end of the album.
Yep.
There's some songs that are punchy and fun and almost dance-like.
Right.
Flavor Flav and Chuck D make an appearance on a track.
And they doubled down on that on Time's Up, the next album.
Yeah, they did.
It got
That's
even
true.
more eclectic.
That's true. Standout tracks, Cult of Personality, gotta be one of the best opening tracks of an album of all time.
Yes.
I mean, killer. Desperate People. God damn, was that a good song. I re-listened to that. That is all over the place as far as genre bending. Open Letter to a Landlord. Great song. I thought it was, in my memory, it was schmaltzy. It's not. It's really heartfelt.
Yeah.
And a unique person. It's a song about gentrification.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know anything about gentrification.
Corey
when I
Glover
was-
could sing like a motherfucker too.
Holy shit, is he underrated? Why does nobody talk about him? His range is incredible.
Yeah.
He does everything from high-pitched metal screaming to soulful, like
Yeah,
R&B
get some
balladry.
gravel in it.
Holy shit, is he talented. And
Yeah.
Vernon Reid, somehow underrated as a guitar player.
Really, everyone in that band,
Oh, Absolutely.
Calhoun on drums, Muzz Skillings on bass, everyone is considered elite. I think that's probably the headline that everyone never really gets discussed is for each instrument.
yeah.
It's elite level talent.
And they were all jazz players, I think,
Yeah.
before they did this. And they did change out the bassist, I think, after this album.
Probably. Yeah, I know at some point. Yeah.
The bass on this album, holy shit. I mean, he's slapping
Doug
the
Wimbish
shit.
was the
Man,
try that.
pulled it right out of his ass. Incredible. And I can validate that is accurate. The bass is way high up in the mix at the right times in this. Makes it super funky, like all the things that it's so like clunky over the head, Chili Peppers, kind of that kind of stuff. It's just subtle enough but loud enough in the mix. Incredible.
And for one of the best live performances you'll ever see, Cult of Personality, Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look it up.
Yeah, and another entertaining bit is to watch like. People are now going back and doing reaction videos to Cult of Personality, like watch like the Cartier family and those guys do that. It's incredible to watch. They're like, wait, these are all like the first thing is like, wait, these are all black dudes. Like, I know this song. That's the first like shock. One, he's wearing like some sort of diving
Like
suit.
body gloves, surfing.
Oh, weird. But no, just how much that song rips. So, yeah. That's number 86.
All right.
85.
85 is back to the tanker over here. No one's ever called me that.
No.
Yeah.
Tanktronic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a fantastic nickname with a fantastic origin story.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
All right. So at number 85, we have Outkast with Stankonia, released in 2000. This was a Blind Degree album. So here's the thing with Outkast. I mean, no one denies their power, their legacy, or how great they were. And one thing we haven't discussed yet is that if we did make a list, and we probably will at some point, of the 100 greatest artists, it wouldn't be as simple as you think of, oh, well, take your number one album. Because there are artists, and Outkast is one of them, that you maintain this level of excellence that's consistent, but no one album breaches into this kind of territory.
Right.
Right. So there is a Beastie Boys album later on this list, spoiler, but there's a lot of artists where it's like, you might wonder, why are there not more albums? They're a great band.
Yeah.
That's true. There's a lot of bands like that, but you could be a Hall of Fame, top 50 band of all time and put out 10 albums, all of them which are very good, but none of them are maybe like the best of that year or the best of.
Right.
So that's the thing with Outkast is we almost couldn't believe it when we went back. We went through the track listings, and it's like we all know all the famous Outkast songs, but they're pretty well spread out on their albums.
Yeah.
So when you look at each individual album, it's like, oh yeah, banger, 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 and wow, what are the other 17 tracks?
Don't remember those songs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you listen to it; it's just a lot of filler. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So their legacy, they're Outkast, right? It is what it is. But when we talk about great albums, I don't know that was their strong suit. Was putting out individually.
No.
Great
I would agree with that.
albums.
Yeah, I agree.
So Stankonia ends up at number 85. And, here you have Bombs Over Baghdad, Miss Jackson, and So Fresh, So Clean. So, I mean, those alone are going to power it to be on the list, and that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they sit at 85. Very, very, very good album. And after looking through the track listings, and, you have all the, Rosa Parks, Elevators, and all these other things. But again, it's, ATLians and Southern Playalistic.
Yeah. It's
kind of spread out to where we think this was the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
84.
Number 84, for something completely different, is Megadeth with Rust in Peace. This album came out in 1990. This was one of my exemptions. I demanded this be on the list.
You did. Early.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only album that I will consider as an alternative to Master of Puppets as the best metal album of all time. It is such a good album, and it's solid all the way through, very much like Master of Puppets, and that there's really not a dead spot. There's some you might like more than others. Five Magics,
okay,
because a lot of the lyrics are kind of like Dungeons and Dragony,
Got it.
But like Holy War's Punishment Due alone, that can hang with Master of Puppets as a title track.
Fantastic song.
Amazing track. There's really not any bad songs. So the guitar solo on Tornado of Souls, it's not a very unique opinion of mine. It's pretty common in metal guitar world, but
sure.
that it's the best solo in
metal.
I mean,
wow.
I guess you could say rock history, because that's where all the crafty
incredible.
solos are in that genre, right?
What's the name of the guitarist?
Marty Friedman.
So
Megadeth is almost like Menudo in that
you age out.
They never make more than like 2 albums with the same lineup.
Got it.
Right. So it was always the Daves.
Okay.
Dave Mustaine and Dave Ellefson.
Okay.
Dave Ellefson turns out is like a kitty diddler or something, so he's out.
Oh boy.
This happened like 5-10 years ago.
Gross.
And so now it's just Dave Mustaine, but the drummer and the other guitarist were always rotating through.
Got it. Okay.
Everyone kind of agrees that this is peak Megadeth.
Okay.
So Nick Menza, rest in peace, on the drums.
Okay.
Marty Friedman was one of those like Satriani Steve Vai types on his own.
Oh, okay.
Huge in Japan. Lives in Japan, fluent in Japanese.
I saw something about that. Okay.
Yeah. So he was someone as good or better than Dave Mustaine. So you have this ridiculous 2-guitar attack.
Right.
And that really is the centerpiece of this album. Is you would have these tracks where it's like dueling guitar solos amongst 2 of the best to do it. And on Tornado of Souls, I cannot stress this enough. It's the one song that most people don't know. It's like the perfectly crafted. It just flows. It's smooth. It's an amazing song with an incredible solo.
Nice.
So yeah, Rust in Peace. Check it out. Check out Tornado of Souls. And that is at number 84.
Okay. At number 83, we have Huey Lewis and the News, Sports, from 1983. 1983 at 83. Huh. This is another one where there's not a whole lot to say about it. Huey Lewis and the News hits are spread out over 2.5 albums, maybe.
Right.
But this is technically their 3rd album. This is the first tape I ever bought, I think, was Huey Lewis and the News, Sports. And so I think my brief research I did on the album, I'm like, well, you look at the track list and you're like, holy shit, it's killer. Okay, so the track list, not the track list, but the bangers that are on this. Heart of Rock and Roll,
banger.
First track. Heart and Soul,
banger.
I Want a New Drug,
banger.
If This Is It,
banger.
And I thought there was another one. Anyway, those are 4 bangers right there.
Yeah. I'll pull up 4 because we had this discussion for an hour of Sports versus 4.
We did, and 4 was really great as well. So as I was saying, the brief research I did into it, they apparently Huey Lewis walked into the studio knowing that we are going to make an album of just hits. Like, we are going to write. And you think, well, how is that different than anybody else that goes into the studio? But like, no, like we want songs that are going to get played on the radio.
Yeah.
Which, aside here, the recent Rick Beato video where he's talking about like, or past Rick Beato videos where he's mentioned like, because of TikTok, people's attention spans are shorter and you're only trying to write songs that will be played, that are good for TikTok, that are good to be played on the radio. People have always just tried to make songs that are going to be on the radio and they're going to be popular. Yeah. Right. But this time, I guess Huey Lewis, like who has this rock background, like heavy rock R&B background, he walked in saying, we're writing hits, and every single, all of these are hits, huge hits.
So 4, by the way, which this barely edged out is Stuck With You, Hip to Be Square, Jacob's Ladder, I Know What I Like, and Doing It All for My Baby.
Doing It All for My Baby, that's a good one. God, they had a decent range too of styles.
Imagine if that was on one album.
Holy shit.
If those 2 were one album.
Yeah. What year? Do you have year? Because this is 83 for Sports.
4 is 86.
I mean,
peak 80s. But I tell you, people.
Peak 80s. This album in 1983 was the 2nd highest selling album after Thriller. That tells you why it belongs on this list for sure, right? Anyway, Sports 1983. It sounds like it's from 1983. I think
Yeah.
that's the only thing. I
Yeah.
think if I played it for my kid, she'd be like, I don't like any of this.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It lives in that zone, and you can't deny the songs. So
Yeah.
82, I think, is back to you.
It is.
Yeah.
And talk about don't know what to say. Number 82, Michael Jackson, Bad, 1987. This was a blind agree because it's got to be on the fucking list. Like,
But it's low compared to most lists.
it's 82, right? And so we probably the single hardest part of, or the thing that we had to discuss the most with this list was, if you do a list like this, there are a handful of albums that traditional thinking says they have to be on the list,
Right.
But that usually runs head to head with like, but what is your criteria?
Right.
Right. So, whenever you have Michael Jackson, his albums are an obvious must include. So, I mean, just to state the facts for anyone who, is, 17 years old and doesn't know this, there were 8 singles, but I Just Can't Stop Loving You, Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, Man in the Mirror, Dirty Diana, Another Part of Me, Smooth Criminal, Leave Me Alone. So, okay. I mean, God knows probably 6 of those or so were number one. I don't know.
They had to be.
But, he's Michael fucking Jackson.
Right.
But maybe, so it's like, okay, so how could we say that's 82? Obviously, it's very subjective and personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because we acknowledge that those were great pop songs. But I think maybe for me, and I think for both of us, does it stand the test of time? Do you want to go back and listen to it?
Yes, that was the big point of our conversation,
Right.
is that, yes, it's great. I never want to listen to it.
Right. Like Back in Black, which came out 6 years before it, you might be like, I'm going to throw in Back in Black.
Yeah.
So I think that's the issue, is maybe it's pigeonholed in the time that it came out.
For us, anyway.
For us.
Yeah.
But honestly, when's the last time you heard someone listening to Michael Jackson?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. Thriller,
So-
but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't put Michael Jackson in the top 10, some people might say, well, then what's this list? But again, the list isn't the most popularly relevant.
Right.
Right. We're not talking societal impact. As an album, you can't deny it's a collection of amazing pop songs, but maybe one-dimensional and stuck in a moment in time.
Maybe.
So
Yeah. I stand by that. I think it made the list.
it made the list.
Yeah.
It's good enough.
Yeah.
And anyway, number 82 is Bad.
Yeah. Number 81 is the White Stripes, Elephant, from 2003. Obviously, local band to us, being from Detroit. So this is their 4th album. I think the second, really, as far as mass popularity, White Blood Cells comes, and then this hits, and this just blows them to the stratosphere. It's when a local band makes it good, it's hard to get perspective of how big they actually are.
Right.
And they were like legit gigantic, right? Well beyond the city of Detroit. So, I mean, again, if you don't know this album, I don't know how much I can help you out with describing it. It's just a solid rock record.
What are the big hits?
Big hits are Seven Nation Army and Hardest Button to Button are really the biggest hits.
I mean, Seven Nation Army alone,
Yeah.
it's permeated sports culture,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. My daughter, who is 10 years old, born in 2013, so 10 years after this came out, they had to play an instrument this year this past year, school year in 5th grade. Everybody has to play an instrument. She chose a baritone, which I didn't know existed. It's like a tuba looking thing. They learned Seven Nation Army.
Yeah.
Right. And like, she's like, oh, that's a song? And I played the song for her and she's like, it's fucking undeniable.
Right.
Tidbits about this album. One, famously, Jack White wrote in the liner notes that there were no computers used in the making of this album, in the production, in the writing of the album. There's no computers involved, and no gear that had been, no gear later than 1963.
I'm going to ask a dumb question.
Yeah.
Who plays bass?
It's not bass. It's usually a guitar run through a effects pedal.
Okay.
Yep. So, and he'll bring the tone way down so that
But
live, Seven Nation Army.
Yeah. They must have a live bassist, though.
No.
But then
Well, now they do. Now Jack White, when he tours on his solo stuff,
Okay.
he has a full band.
Right.
But remember, it was always just him and Meg on stage.
Yeah.
So he would just do whatever, go through effects pedals, retune his guitar so that he could hit those notes. But then he'd have to do the gymnastics of then like getting into the chorus, which is a totally different guitar sound, and hit another pedal. Incredible. Yeah, if you haven't seen them live, I actually haven't seen them live in person.
I don't think I have either.
We really probably should.
It's a field trip.
Yep.
Well, won't see Meg anymore, but
That's true. Yep. Skip the very last track. It's the song with Holly Golightly, who sings "It's true that we love one another. I love Jack White like a little brother." It's fucking bizarre. I don't know the background story of it. Hard skip.
It's the White Stripes version of something to dance to.
yes, absolutely. Anyways, but yeah, that's 81.
Yep.
Which does it for our list for today.
That's it for today's episode.
Yeah.
We are 1/5 of the way through, folks.
Oh, it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're killing it.
I think we are too.
Again, if you want to go back and watch the previous 10, we'll link that down below, as well as right here. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening to the audio version of the show, I should have mentioned this last time around. We are also, you can see our lovely faces on YouTube and Spotify. So check us out there. Again, like, subscribe, and comment. We'd really appreciate it. We want to grow the extended family. We really want to hear from you what you thought, not only of our picks,
right,
but what you might have put in around this area in the 80s. Not in the 1980s, but in the 80s of a list of 100 greatest albums.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. With what you've heard so far, what do you think the misses are?
Yeah. I think we're going to get a lot of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bring it on.
We're not afraid.
Yeah. Let's go.
Anyway, talk to you next time. 2 weeks, you'll have the 70s.
That's right.
All right. See ya.
Take care, everyone.